It's gonna be good. All right, we are now streaming on Facebook. We're now streaming to the group. Jordan, I am really excited to be here. Last week was sort of there was a lot that was going on, so we had to postpone it. Yesterday, we wanted to jump on. I know a lot of you guys were asking, where are you guys? But we are back today and ready to just jump into some really interesting topics. A topic that's near and dear to my heart. I think a topic that's extremely relevant to the times around the world and the country that we're in right now. And a topic that I've had many shifts that have occurred over these last 8 years, as opposed to what maybe I was, taught years ago and how I think today. So we're going to jump into it. Jordan is at home with his little one, so you might see a few children walking behind. But Jordan, how you feel, brother?
Hey, awesome. What's up, everybody? It's good to be here with you. I was just telling Jamil, if you guys are following his Animal Planet kingdom that he lives in on social media, I said I got my little animals around here, but they're a lot tamer most of the time, unless it's nap time. But hey, it's so good to be with you. Today, I'm really excited to dig into one of the most major shifts I think that happened. That's really like a foundational shift for you too, Jamil. But first, I have to make an announcement. If we're ready for an announcement, see, there's this little best-selling book called Richest Man in Direct Sales that you may have heard of. And we've had so many people who've said, I love this. I love the audiobook. I love the Kindle book. I can take it with me everywhere. But I like to feel it in my hands, right? If anybody's like me, I just like to feel it in my hands too. And there were these kind of like private release copies, Jamil's secret stash.
That's
right?
But
we decided we can't keep these secret. And so this is going to be available on Monday for anybody to order and pick up, and Amazon Prime is going to ship it straight to your house. And you're going to be able to mark this book up. You're going to be able to dog ear it, and you're going to be able to give it away and buy new copies, because this is a little life changer. This is a 60-minute read that can change the next 60 years of your life. So we're going to post that in this group when it becomes available. But so many of you have asked, so we wanted to let you know we listened, and here it is.
Well, I think that's such great news, because you're right. There's been about maybe 200 to 300 people that have gotten the book copy, to where they can feel it, they can open it, it could be signed for them. And in the past, I would say, since we released basically the Kindle version, people have been asking, hey, when can I have the tangible, the book in my hands? And so to be able to give that to them now is really rewarding, because there has not been a day, Jordan, that has gone by since we released The Richest Man in Direct Sales, that we have not gotten a handful of messages just saying how influential, how important, how easy of a read, but how much it's already helped me, even during really, really tough and strange times like this. So that I was just talking to my son last night, and he goes, we were driving to get lunch, and he goes, how does it make you feel to sort of be in that position to where so many people were messaging you and saying how much you've just from what you've written has influenced them? And I told him, well, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That is the find your 12 mentality, that it's okay to do well for yourself, but that's only good. You only reach greatness when you figure out how to help other people do well for themselves. And that is what the journey is about. And that's going to be a lot of what today's topic is going to be about, as we dive into, economics and basic economics, and Find Your Land of Plenty, which was an incredible chapter. I don't know if you can think back to those days, Jordan, as we were building out this chapter, but there's certainly a lot of laughs. There was some sweat, there was some tears, there was some conversations, and it was just funny to go back to this, because a lot of this chapter is about the lies that we tell ourselves, the lies that we allow other people to sort of infiltrate ourselves with, and just not really understanding. So there's some really funny stories in this shift. We talk a lot about my buddy Graham. We talk a lot about the lies that I used to tell. And we talk about just not having the general, just being ignorant oftentimes to things that helps you be successful financially.
Yeah, this ship's called Find Your Land of Plenty. And I do remember when we started working on this, and it was, there's so much to talk about, but I think what you did a really good job of, and what you're going to help us do a good job of, is really focusing in on, hey, you know who the best liar is probably ourselves to ourselves. Yes. Right. And yes. A lot of the clay that we get stuck on. And so I'd love to dive into it and just ask, first of all, why don't you describe what the idea or the shift of having a land of plenty was? And then we're going to talk about the journey to get there and how much of it happens in our minds and the people who are around us. But what is the land of plenty?
Well, the land of plenty, so much of the book is moving from sort of what we might call a poverty mindset to an abundance mindset. And you know, when I built out this chapter, I really built it out from my own experience, but also my experience of working with thousands of people over the last 6, 7, 8 years. And so, you know, I had always been raised with this sort of ideology, this philosophy of not enough, and I was tired of it. And I think most people are tired of it. Most people, as you look around the country, if you look around the world, are living just below of okay. And I think most people are kind of sick and tired of feeling that way, but we're not exactly sure where it comes from. We're not exactly sure what to do with it. And we're certainly not exactly sure how to overcome it. And so when we first started building out this chapter, it's kind of funny at the beginning because it starts off with saying, look, I get it. I understand, Jordan. I understand. Listen, I've been there, and I know that it's too expensive. I know that you can't have the things that you really want in life. I know that you can't live in abundance like you really want. I know that you can't have the peace and freedom that you really desire. I know that your husband, your wife, or your church is probably holding you back. I know that if you have way too much, that's probably sinful. You're probably a person of the world. You're too worldly. I know that probably makes you a really bad person. I know that there's just not enough resources out there. I know that that person is doing really, really well financially, economically. It's probably taken away from you and your blessings and all those other people. In fact, I know that that person's probably not a good person. I get it, and I know it. And so we really kind of start out the chapter taking away all of the reasons as to why we can't do as well as we want to. And I really wanted to do that because that is a mindset. And so much of the book, The 12 Shifts, happen to revolve around this provocative mindset that a lot of us will have. And so we certainly are shaped when it comes to finances and where we are in terms of living in our land of plenty. We're shaped by outside forces a lot of times. So whether that's your mom and your dad, whether that's a playmate at school, whether that is your church or your place of worship, whether that is the media, all of these things are really cloaked on you, and it's really hard to break them off, especially when you don't know what you don't know. And so that's what finding the land of plenty. And so I wanted to just really, give this soft touch to I understand. Let me show you how it happened to me. Let me show you when this shift happened, when I wanted to now move from sort of a poverty and impoverished mindset to now operating out of an abundance mindset. And let's show you how to do it. And so it was, for me, it was a beautiful journey because it took me all the way back to when I was a little boy. And it took me to how all these things started shaping me. And then it took me to where I'm at now. And so it's a beautiful chapter that I think has so much so much influence, and it makes the book whole.
Absolutely. And I love, before we start diving into some of the specific stories and kind of taking people along those steps, the idea of this land of plenty is like this destination, right? And you can't get where you want to go if you don't decide where you want to go. But here at the very beginning, you unpack the fact that there's kind of this guilt associated with wanting what you want. There's almost this like fear of really verbalizing, oh my gosh, I'm going to look like materialistic, or I'm going to look like this bad person. I remember hearing stories about this pastor who, when they retired, they got this Cadillac, and it was the first nice car they ever got, but they parked way in the back so nobody would see the Cadillac, because they were terrified people were going to be like, oh, you're bad because you have a nice thing. And I think that gets really stuck on us. And so I'd love to ask you, like, why do you think there's so much guilt around finances and wanting to do better and wanting to do more? That's part one. And then part two is, how do we get rid of that guilt so we can go to our land of plenty, verbalize it, and actually make a path to get there?
What a great question. So let me just explain why there was so much guilt for me. And I think as I'm explaining this, I'm telling my story, but I'm also telling the stories for a lot of other people. Part of it is most people simply do not have the things that they really, really want. And the other part is once we start kind of going down this road of wanting more, we truly do want more, but we keep failing, Jordan. It's just not working for us. It's just not really working. Hold on real fast. Mila wants to say hi. What can we help you with, baby?
I just need to talk to you.
Can we talk after I finish this?
No.
Please?
No.
She says no.
This is hashtag Family Friday.
Hashtag Family Friday.
Yeah.
So we're on a really important call to where we're teaching a little bit. Can I teach you? Can I talk after this? Okay, go play with Ezra.
But
Okay.
Ezra's inside doing his homework.
Okay, well
Man,
tell
guys,
Mama.
it's so hard when we have cute kids, when we have cute daughters who come up, Daddy, can we do this? You all know what we mean.
So there's these things, and it's not just with finances, it's with everything. And in my industry, I see it all the time. But basically, there's many studies that are out there, and there's one of these studies to where you will have basically crabs in a pot, and then what they'll do is as these crabs are in the pot, they keep trying to get out. Okay, they'll keep trying to get out, and then what they'll do is they'll slowly turn up the temperature on these crabs. And as they slowly turn up the temperature, as it starts to get harder, what they will do now is they'll stop trying to get out. That's what human beings do. So as you're trying for a long time and it's not really working, it's not really happening for you, then there's this thing that comes in, which is self-fulfilled prophecy, and it's never going to happen for me. And then as we do that, there's this thing called cognitive dissonance, and because it's not really happening for me, what I'll say is it's not really possible. And if I see other people that are having it, that's the only way that I can kind of make myself feel better for not being able to do it, is to say, well, there must be something that's wrong with them. And I'm saying this because this is what's happened to me. The other thing in my own personal journey was on my mom's side of the family, it's very, very spiritual, as we say. And so there's a lot of ministers, there's a lot of pastors, and we were one of those families that grew up in a church, Jordan. And I know you have a very similar background. And we grew up when we went to church all the time. And so there would be these sort of missed messages that would happen from the pulpit. And there would be these things that maybe they said it one way, but the audience may have heard it a different way. But what I would hear is, doing very, very well. And if you did very well, then that meant that there was something that was bad to it. There was all this like this negative connotation that was attached to doing very, very well financially. And so now I would take that and I would literally feel like, man, if I did strive to do more, then that meant I was going to hell. And every Sunday I was reminded that you do not want to go to hell. You want to go to heaven. Even when we would go and do things, people in church, I remember, would get praise for going to do things of service to Sister Kelly, to Sister Linda, to Sister Kathy, right? And it was like if you went and you did all of these very, very nice things, then you were even praised within the church itself. So there's all these little messagings that happen along the journey, and it makes it tough. It makes it rough. So what I had to do was what we talked about in shift number one, is I had to, and it wasn't until I was probably 34 years old, is I had to start thinking about, well, why is it like this? And am I actually in control of this? Or am I living someone else's story? And what I'm saying is, I now had to start to become conscious. I had a vocabulary about myself. This is too expensive. I can't afford it. This was my way of thinking. And because it was my way of thinking, that really started to now influence my words. And so I would say things like, man, I can't do that. That's way too expensive for me. Have you ever heard anyone say, that's way too, I can't afford that? What are you talking about? I know you really want, I can't afford that. And I didn't understand, why are my words manifesting my life? Where's this coming from? And all of that starts from a young age, man, from a young age. And what happens is people don't realize it, because they don't realize it because they failed so many times, because they forgot to dream. Now it starts to show up in their lives. A big part of it as well is the people, the company that they keep, community. So they say birds of a feather flock together. Why do they say that? What an interesting statement. Why do they say birds of a feather flock together? Why do they say things like, you will most likely be like the 5 to 6 adults that you hang out with most? And so now, if you're in a community that has these ideologies, that have these belief systems, that have this sort of way of living, what do you think will naturally start to take hold of within your life too? When you're talking about this land of plenty, when you're talking about this abundance mentality and moving out of this poverty and this sick mentality, if you're all around people that sort of have these ideologies, then most likely this is how you're going to be too. So I had to start thinking about that. And I had to start making a shift. And in this shift, we talk about my son Ezra. And we talk about, okay, now that Jamil's making a shift, I'm no longer going to say I can't afford it. I'm now going to start to realize it's in here, man. I'm no longer going to say it's too expensive. I'm going to start changing these thoughts, these ideologies, these concepts. And I'm going to start changing my vocabulary as well. And as I started doing that, I would say, okay, I'm not going to say I can't afford it. What I'm going to start saying is, how can I? I'm not going to say it's too expensive. I'll now start to say, what are the things that I need to do and the value that I need to give so that I actually can afford that? And so what happens is, psychologically, what now starts to happen is your brain will start to open up, and your brain will only do what you allow it to do. So if I keep saying, Jordan, man, that's not for somebody like me. Jordan, you don't understand. The love of money, man, is the root of all evil for somebody like me. That's not something I could do. Jordan, you don't understand, bro. Like, I can't afford that. Jordan, you don't, me earn $100,000 a year, 200,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, $2 million a year. Jordan, that's not possible for me. And because we say that, because we think that, your brain won't even open up the ideas and the ability to now start to find the answers. Your brain is like this honing mechanism. And that's basically what it is. And when you set something in here, it wants to go find it. But if you already shut off the possibilities that it's possible for you because of this mentality, this below the line, poverty stricken mentality, not this open, this curious, this abundant mentality, because it's already like that, it won't even work for you. You won't even see the possibilities that are there so that you can actually do the things that you want to do. But when you approach and you say, well, no, dude, like, how could I afford this? What value would I need to bring to the world? What people would I need to impact? What products would I need to come up with? What service would I have to commence? What would I actually need to do in order to get to a place where I could? Now, right away, thoughts will start to pop up. Ideas will start to pop up. People will start to be on your path. Just these weird things will start to happen. Money will fall in place. You'll start to have people now that want to invest in your dreams and your vision, all because you now start to attract and have a different mindset. But most people don't have that. So I started to shift that. I started to shift my belief system, and I start to shift now what I'm attracting into my life. And truly, this is one of the ways to where spiritual text will say all things are possible. This is one of the ways to where you can have it even right now. I promise you right now, people in this pandemic, Jordan, there's people that are suffering. They got laid off a month ago. They're part of the 20 million people that filed for unemployment, probably more than that over the past 2 years. I promise you, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, some of the biggest companies are going to spring out of this. I don't even have to hope about it or pray about it. This is a natural transition of how things happen. So what's going to happen is there's people that are sitting there right now that are thinking, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I got laid off from my job. Gosh, you know, how can I just get that next paycheck? This is what they're thinking. Because I told you, we live just below what? We're conditioned to do this. Now, some people are going to say, well, okay, how do I take this to a completely another level? Like another level that just knocks it out of the ballpark. And they're going to start thinking about the Ubers. They're going to start thinking about the Lyfts. I'm naming companies now that came out of our last downturn. They're going to start thinking about the Airbnbs. They're going to start thinking about how can I go and serve and bring more value to the marketplace, right? They're going to start thinking about these things. And because of that, because of their mind is moving to an abundance mentality and mindset, now they will start to find their land of plenty because they have shifted. So long answer to what seemed like a simple question.
Well, here's the thing. I think we need to really unearth that there's two fundamental beliefs that you're unpacking. So let's just get a little economic, a little philosophical here for those who want to shift how they see the world, because that's really what you're talking about. And I think the first thing was releasing from that guilt. It's like, listen, money isn't bad. And as you're talking about that, you started, and you even quote that famous scripture that says, it's the love of money, right? That's the root of all evil. But what I've seen, and maybe you've seen this too, is we are financially doing much better off than we used to be at times, right? That happens a lot to us as we grow up and figure some things out. And what I've realized is I think I'm actually a much better person now.
Yes.
I'm a much more helpful person now. I've given more jobs to people now. I've helped other people elevate and achieve what they've wanted to achieve now. And suddenly I made this connection that, and this is the second shift that you were just talking about, that I'm not compensated for my time. I'm compensated for the value that I bring into the market. And,
Yes.
and you're so good at this. And so I want you to talk about that a little bit, like, because that's a huge transformation. We don't get compensated for hours. We get compensated for how much value. So suddenly you ask, okay, so here's my little secret. I want a castle. I want to buy a castle someday.
Sure.
So I would have thought, boy, how much money do I have to get? But now I'm like, oh, how many people do I need to help? How much
Yes.
value do I bring? So why don't you talk about that shift from time compensation to value compensation?
Oh my gosh, you just gave me the chills when you're saying that. Let me talk about a couple things. So Jordan just said one of his desires, he just said a lot. He just said a lot. And I want to try to unpack some of the things that he said. One of his desires is to have a castle. I have no idea why that's this man's ideas or dreams, but that's his. Now, Jordan, a lot of people wouldn't even say that because they know the minute that they say that, one, they don't believe that they can have it, and two, what are people going to say now about your dream? Are they going to poo-poo on it? Are they going to say that you're a bad person because you want that? Are they going to, what negative things are going to spring up because of that? Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is I truly start to realize that the truly the people that impacted the most and did the most good were the people that were financially better off. Now, when I was coming up, I used to believe a different thing. I would see us go out and we would bring, soup to Sister Kelly, or we would come, go to door to door. I would go, obviously, on many mission trips and stuff like that. And then what I started to realize was, man, the people that can make the biggest impact are those that actually have that have more resources. And it's like there's nothing wrong with going to Sister Kelly's house and dropping off soup. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's amazing. That's it. That's like phenomenal. But that's one person, Jordan. But if I have the resources, do you know how many Sister Kellys I could help in that same amount of time? And this is what you're talking about. It is the value, right? The other thing is this. I was always concerned about hours. And now, like, we're working on our house here. And so we need a lot of people to help us. Well, the majority of people that help us are helping us on an hourly value. So they'll say, for my consultant fees, we charge this an hour. To paint, we charge this an hour. What I started realizing was never again was I going to work for an hour or actually work for money. What I just said is probably sound crazy to most people, but that is a shift. Never again will I actually work for money. I work for value and impact. And as I work for value, the money will naturally show up. So when I started realizing that I wanted to live in abundance, only thing I need to figure out, Jordan, was how much value could I bring to the marketplace? Now, I think this is a big shift because before I was working for a salary, I was working for hours, and I was basically working for me and my family to do well. Now the shift took place, and the shift was, how can I actually bring more value to more people in more places around the world? And now because I'm giving more, listen to my words, now because I'm investing more, I'm helping more people solve problems. And because I'm serving more. Now, before, I didn't serve that much. I didn't give that much. I only worked for the hours to help me and my family. Now it's a complete different mindset. So when we think about how can I serve more people, how can you do that? So I said, okay, well, in my current business, how can I serve more clients and more business partners? How can I give more? Now, I'm not going to work for a paycheck. You have to remember that. But I'm working on value. How can I provide more value? When we got into real estate, I started thinking, how can I serve more people? How many properties can I buy and allow other people to have a safe place to live for their family? How can I serve more people? When we talk about our books, I'm always thinking about how can I serve more people? How can I bring more value to the marketplace? And what we start to learn is I am helping a lot more people. Thus, the universe says you're providing more value to more people. more often, therefore we're going to compensate you a hell of a lot more. Before, I was thinking so small. Let me go work really hard and it's 1 hour. No. How many people can I serve in 1 hour? How many people can I bring more value to in 1 hour? Completely different mindset. And so what I started to realize, the people that actually are the most generous are the ones that probably are earning a hell of a lot more. Why? Because they're solving way more problems. So economically, if you want to start doing better, just think about, how can I solve more people's problems? I'm on a MacBook Air right now, right? I got my iPhone right here, okay? Now, you think about Steve Jobs, you think about Ballmer, you think about all these executives in Apple. Why do they make so much? Do you think they're worried about what I earned for an hour? Do you? No. Why the heck do they earn so much? They have found an issue, problems that people have. And what they have done is now they've solved those problems. They bring value to those problems. They make people's lives easier. I wake up every single day and I make people's lives easier in lots of different ways. I find that they have issues. We have solutions to those issues. Steve Jobs saw that there was a huge issue with people. They bring solutions to those issues. And because of that, they're not working for that day. They're not working for that hour. They are working to provide value. Now, if more people did that, even now, even in the time that we are in now, and you think about, okay, I might not be where I want to be, but how could I afford that? How could I get that capsule? How could I help more Sister Marys? How could I have more time, freedom? How could I have more economic freedom? Who could I serve? What problems could I solve? How can I bring more? How can I wake up every single day and say, today, whose problems can I solve? That is the shift.
That right there is the foundation for the journey to this land of plenty. Because what's so cool about Jamil's land of plenty isn't just Jamil's land of plenty. You can feed a lot of people from your land of plenty, right? And invite a lot more people to go even further. And I think the other thing that I really love about this chapter is how you're working to pass this on to your kids, and how you're helping your kids see, even through a lemonade stand, that, okay, fundamentally you can start understanding the concept, but now you have to believe it's possible for you, right? I have to believe that I'm capable of becoming Castle Jordan, right? Lord of the Manor Jordan. Like, I have to believe I'm capable of becoming that kind of person who can help that many people. And I think we all need to get there, but also it's cool if we look backward and say, well, how could I help my kids understand this? And then help my kids understand that they can become that kind of person to build this world that we'd all love to live in. And there's a lemonade stand that tells that story.
Yeah, there is. So, sorry if it's a little bit loud. The mockingbirds are going crazy out here. So in this shift, Find Your Land of Plenty, I really want to show how simple it was to find your land of plenty, to really have whatever it is that you want. And I draw this out with Ezra and his lemonade stands, which is going to be a series that Jordan and I and his team, my team, are working on to really bring out that sort of like a prelude to the 12 the Richest Men direct sales. But there's let me just tell you the backstory. So the backstory was this: Ezra was turning, I think, 7 or 8 years old, and his mother and I have given our kids the philosophy of one of the philosophies is, what can I do to earn it? What can I do to earn it? So, Dad, can I have this? Dad ignores. Hey, Dad, can I have this? Dad ignores. Hey, Dad, can I have $5? Dad ignores. Hey, Dad, what can I do to earn $5? Now Dad answers. Now Dad answers. Okay, so he wanted a birthday party. His mother and I said that we would gift him one birthday party, but he wanted two. He wanted to celebrate twice. He wanted to go to this place. It's sort of like Vegas on steroids for kids, right? So he wanted to stay overnight, invite some of his friends, just have a blast. And so we said, well, you need to go earn the money in order to do this. Okay, so what he didn't say was, I can't afford that. Now you have to remember he's 7. I told you so much of this is mindset, is conditioning, and it's who you are around. What sort of environment are you growing up in? He's growing up in an environment to where we truly believe all things are possible. And so that's already shaping them. So right away, he went and made a list. And the list was, what are the 4 or 5 things and the ways that I can bring value to people so I can earn this money to go have my party? And so he sat down at the kitchen table. I was in my office and he sat down with Amanda and they said, well, I'm really into Harry Potter and I love the wands. We can go on and produce some wands. He's a great artist. And so he said, I can, I can make some comic books and then sell those. His grandma Gigi has a ton of lemon trees that we can go and pick and really start a lemonade stand. And so there was this list of things that he can do to figure out how can I afford it. You see how it's starting to happen, even at 7 years old. And so eventually they decided to do a couple things. And one of those things was a lemonade stand. So he was going to start to have a series of lemonade stands around our area in Southern California. Okay, so that's one. Now, there are many different ways to earn a dollar. Unfortunately, most people do it from an employee mindset. Let me say that again. Unfortunately, most people do it from an employee mindset. And because they have an employee mindset, Jordan, they will have employee tendencies. A lot of their tendencies are safe, comfortability, and security. And this usually now starts to permeate throughout the other areas of their lives too. They're really afraid to take a risk with anything. I'm not just talking about what their jobs. Usually this shows up in their relationships. Usually this shows up in their investment habits. Usually it shows up in other areas of their lives because they have this philosophy of safety, security, and afraid to take a risk, right? I have to have a guarantee. So Ezra now, he's moving into what we call a small business owner. He's going to take his lemonade stands, he's going to produce all the lemonades, and he's going to go out there and set up his lemonade stands and really sell his lemonade. So I said, Ezra, that's good, that's just not great. Because the problem with that is you will not be able to serve that many people. You're only one dude with one lemonade stand. If you want to earn more, you need to serve more. Does this make sense? I hope I'm not losing you guys. And so
You're on it. It's good.
Okay, so now he's out there and he's with his lemonade stands and he's doing well. So he's bringing in some income. He gets his sister to come out there and to help him. So now he's giving her a small little piece, but she's able to help him, assist him while more people are coming up. Mila's out there. Mila's super young at this time, okay? So they're earning a little bit. And I said, Ezra, you need to move from being a small business owner to now big business. And so now what he's going to need to do is go find some other little friends who also have the desire to earn money. And he needs to teach them how to now go start their own lemonade stands. And because he's teaching them that, he needs to take a part of their revenue, their earnings. Okay, so now he has his lemonade stands, but now he has a couple other buddies that have lemonade stands because he spent his time with them. So now what is he able to do? He's now able to influence and serve more people, him directly and now indirectly. Is he going to earn more? Yes. Why? Because he's helping more people with their problems. Do you understand this? Now, in order to move from the small business mindset, which is a mindset, that usually kind of comes across with they have to be Superman. They have to try to do everything on their own. But that gives them joy and fulfillment that I've struck out on my own. I'm doing this on my own, and it's all about me, and I'm the cook, the chief, and the bottle wash. Now that's limiting. Why is that limiting? Because you're only one freaking person. You won't be able to serve that many people. And because it's limiting, you will make a limited amount of money because you're not helping enough people. You can't physically do it. There's only 24 hours in a day. Ezra can only sit at his one lemonade stand. But now if he can train and teach and mentor other little boys and girls to do it, now he can serve more people all around geographical areas. Okay. Now, what is this forcing him to do? It's forcing him to have delayed gratification because at the beginning, he's going to, this is why you don't work for money. Oh my God, if you want to be free, do not work for money. At the beginning, he's going to spend a hell of a lot of his time coaching, training, mentoring, empowering, teaching them how to now go serve people. He's not going to make anything for that, nor should he. This is why I'm not big with all of these folks who come and they work on hourly wages and stuff, our attorneys or, your accountants and stuff like that. My philosophical belief is different. You serve at the beginning, you get in the end. Okay. So he's going to spend a lot of his time. He's not going to be compensated. Now, as he helps them be successful, now he will become successful. I don't care if it's lemonade stands, if it's painting, if it's cutting grass. I don't care what it is. It's all the same. So now he is bringing in more revenue, more income. Okay. So now his leadership skills need to be developed. Delayed gratification needs to be developed. He needs to be able to take on more risk. He needs to be able to manage more emotions and people types. He needs to learn all of these things, but most people don't want to learn those things and are scared to learn those things. And because of that, they will stay small. Okay. Because now this is too scary over here. I don't know. I don't have that assurance. And now it's not up to me. Now we got all these other people that I got to figure out. And sometimes it's like herding cats. It's really hard. And so people don't want that delayed gratification. This is why they will stay small. And then what we teach Ezra to do is now he needs to take that income, that revenue. Yes, go do your birthday party. But now we need to train him how to become an investor. Everything that we teach and The Richest Man in Direct Sales. So Ezra now knows that all this money is coming in. That's not actually his. A lot of that is for future Ezra. Okay, it's not for Ezra right now. And so he knows at least 30% of what's coming in is not his. Part of it's for his savings, part of it's for his investing, and part of it he needs to give away. Because if we give, you will receive. It's a philosophical concept. It's a law. And so this is how we help someone who's 7 years old be able to go and do these things. What do you think an adult is capable of doing? And this is just from a lemonade stand. What are all the other things that can be produced out there? I mean, Jordan, we're working on a piggy bank. I mean, how simple is that? But it's going to bring solutions to people all around the world. So this is part of the shift. This is how you can start to find your land of plenty. And when you move into greatness, the disciples asked Jesus, they said, Jesus, when everything comes ahead and you're sitting on the throne, man, I want to be sitting on your left and your right. Jesus, how can we become great? How can we achieve greatness? And Jesus says, well, I'll tell you. You want the secret? They said, yes. He says, the way you become great is you learn to serve the many. Now, most people are not great right now, Jordan, and most people are suffering right now because honestly, they're only thinking about themselves economically. When you learn to wake up with a philosophy of serving many, then you won't find yourself, you will rarely find yourself in a bind.
Man, that is so good. It reminds me of kind of encapsulating the whole thing. It reminds me of the story about the buckets in the pipeline I heard once, and maybe you've heard this. There was this village and they didn't have any water. So they go and they take all these bids and they say, we need water in our village. And this guy shows up and he's like, I've got buckets and I'm going to start bringing water to the village. And he comes and he starts bringing all this water to the village and everyone's loving it. And he's making money by the bucket. And then these people come and they say, well, we'll do it, but it's going to take us a little longer. We've got a different idea. And then they go off and they kind of disappear. And people want more and more water. And so this guy hires his sons to bring buckets. And then they're all bringing buckets. And then twice a day, they're bringing 2 buckets, right? And it's just, they're working themselves to the bone to bring all this buckets of water, but they're making money. And then suddenly, one day, this weird metal pipe shows up in the middle of the village and water just starts running out of it without the guys who built the pipeline having to haul the buckets. And suddenly the whole town is getting all this water. And then there's other villages around and they just extend their pipelines from this lake that they built. Meanwhile, Bucket and Sons are like trying to run all these buckets to all these villages, but nobody wants the bucket water anymore because they can get it for cheaper and more through the pipeline. And what you're teaching your son to do, what you're teaching us to do is like, hey, how can you build a pipeline that serves people all of the time because you've helped other people, you've given to other people who can now give to other people? How can you build a pipeline instead of just being in this hauling bucket mentality where you could work yourself to the bone, bringing water when you could actually serve villages and villages building a pipeline, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. When I first got into the industry of health coaching, I remember seeing this philosophy early on. I was at a seminar and I was like, oh my gosh, man, I've been working my tail off since I graduated college for, I think at that point I was 31. So probably like close to 10 years, right? And I really didn't have much to show for it. And then I saw this model and like this business model, this philosophy. And I didn't truly get it, but I like understood it a little bit. And I was like, wow, okay, so for the last 10 years, I don't really have anything to show for all my hard work. I've been laid off already twice. I was laid off from Johnson & Johnson in pharmaceutical sales in 2008, 2009, when a lot of people were laid off. And I was laid off from medical sales as a company downturn. And so I was like, okay, well, in this model, what if I just spent like 8 years not working for money, but working for value? And what if we could build something that's like that pipeline that just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing, even if I don't show up that day? What if I decided, the person that built this pipeline, what if they decided to go on a trip to South Africa? Okay. But they built something that was so freaking good that water was keep flowing even without that individual being there. Now that made sense to me. And I said, well, why? And I would have recruiters call me, Jordan, like the first couple of years that I quit my job. And I would have recruiters call me and say, hey man, I'll pay you $130,000 to like come work at this medical company, or we'll pay you like $120,000. And at that time, I wasn't making anything basically with coaching, And I told them, and I would say, there's no way that I would ever go back. There's no way. Why? Because 8 years from now, I'll probably still be in the same space. And I said, but if I could just delay these gratifications and build a pipe that didn't even need me there, that I can leave for my kids and for my heirs and for all these people that follow, that made sense to me. And so that goes along with the mentality, though. I had to move from an employee-based mindset to a small business-based mindset, to a big business-based mindset, to an investors-based mindset. The big business-based mindset is I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to put a ton of time up front. I'm willing to invest a lot in terms of time, money, resources, knowledge. I'm willing to do all those things for big time gains on the back end. The investor's mindset is it's generally high emotional intelligence, to where they're just really cool about everything. The The market goes up, I'm cool. Market goes down, I'm cool. Pandemic hits, I'm cool. Pandemic doesn't hit, I'm cool. I'm going to figure out a way to succeed no matter what. And so those are the shifts that came. And really, you know, as we start to, well, it's so important. It's not just important for an individual. Again, almost every chapter isn't just important for the individual. I'm thinking much, much bigger. It's important for our world. It's important for our world. The water pipe you described, yes, it was important for that individual that came up with that. Yes, it was important for the village. But look at all the other people that benefited from that. It's important for our world. Now, the guys that were carrying buckets, now they're SOL. They're shit out of luck. For that particular project, that does not mean they're shit out of luck forever. There are millions of things that you can come up with to start bringing value to other people. They can now, if they wanted to, figure out a strategic partnership with the guy that built the pipe. They can now come up with a way to make the pipe even better, come up with a filtration system. But if they have this poverty and this limited mindset that, oh, their brain's not even going to allow them to start thinking about it. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you go and find your land of plenty.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And, you know, when we're in difficult times, especially right now, you're really helping us understand, like, hey, with every obstacle, there's an opportunity, right? Every time a new problem is introduced, there are people who need help solving that problem. And guess what? The more you help people solve problems, the bigger problems that you solve, the more income shows up, because the greater your impact, the greater your income. And it's such a pure thing when you come from this value-driven mindset. So instead of how much can I get, it's like, how much can I give, and how many people do I need to give to, so that this land of plenty can come into being. And I want everybody to believe that you can become that kind of person. You can become that kind of person who builds this land of plenty by giving. And I think you would say the same thing, Jamil. If you can do it, we can do it, because it was consistency, dedication, all the things that we'll keep talking about. But this has been so inspiring, and really a good reset for any of us who are kind of looking around scared. It's like, you can take control now and build something that helps a lot of people, and you can feel great about that.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I was excited about jumping into this. I remember, I even remember when I was deciding to, you know, write The Richest Man in Direct Sales, and even write this chapter, there's still some of that hesitation that was in there. It's been cloaked from years and years before, you know, like, don't talk about this, don't write about this. But you know, that's what we call chatter. That's chatter. A lot of it is just not knowing, but a lot of it is chatter too. It's our own kind of self-fulfilled prophecy, our own way of talking to ourselves. So I want to encourage you guys to go to the Think Life is Different website, to go pick up The Richest Man in Direct Sales. It will help you for sure. It's not just for people in the direct sales industry. It literally is for everyone. It's for kids. I would love to see that book in every household and really work through with every single child. The book, the tangible book is coming out. It's going to be available soon. And, you know, shortly we're going to release the 12 shifts, which I'm really excited about The Richest Man. I think it's so juicy. The 12 shifts, I'm infatuated by that book. I just think that I think it is so good. I feel like much of the work that was done on that was not man-driven, it was God-driven. And I just think that it's powerful. So that's going to be out soon. And we encourage you to keep inviting people to this group, to keep getting fed. And we thank you for your generosity. So Jordan, I guess until next week, we'll sign off here. I want to thank you, my friend. And let's go and see if we can go impact more people and bring more value to more people. Have a great week, you guys.